The old work boots were covered in dust. The faded blue mechanic's jumpsuit carried the marks of countless long days spent fixing machines to keep food on the table. Holding a small paper folder tightly against his chest, the single father stood quietly in the gleaming lobby of Summit Enterprises, surrounded by polished marble floors, expensive suits, and people who barely noticed him. Then everything stopped. A sharp voice echoed through the building, telling him he could not enter, because people like him did not belong in a place like that. Every eye turned toward him, expecting him to lower his head and walk away in shame. But no one could have imagined that the very next thing this quiet father would do would leave an entire company speechless and change countless lives forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is stronger than pride and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel. Kindness. Your support helps us share more stories that inspire the heart. Ethan Carter had never planned to become both mother and father to his little daughter, Lily. Life had forced him into that role after losing his wife to a sudden illness 5 years earlier. Since then, every sunrise meant another battle. He woke before dawn, packed Lily's lunch, braided her hair even though he never learned perfectly, dropped her at school, worked long shifts repairing industrial equipment, and returned home exhausted only to help with homework, before falling asleep in an old chair. Every dollar mattered, yet he never allowed his daughter to see how frightened he sometimes felt. To Lily, her father was the strongest man in the world. Months earlier, Ethan had discovered a dangerous manufacturing defect while repairing equipment supplied to several local factories. The defect had already caused minor accidents, and he feared someone could eventually lose their life. Rather than ignoring the problem, he spent countless nights documenting every detail, designing an affordable solution, and preparing a proposal that could prevent future tragedies. Summit Enterprises manufactured the equipment, and he believed that if someone important simply listened, lives could be saved. Getting a meeting had proven impossible. Emails went unanswered. Phone calls ended with polite refusals. Letters disappeared into silence. Finally, after using his last vacation day, Ethan decided to appear in person. He carried nothing except hope, a carefully prepared report, and faith that doing the right thing would matter. Across the lobby, CEO Victoria Langston was already dealing with one of the worst mornings of her career. Investors were arriving, the board was demanding impossible results, and rumors about declining safety standards threatened the company's reputation. Every minute felt precious. When security informed her that a mechanic insisted on entering without an appointment, frustration overcame patience. Looking only at his worn clothes and tired appearance, she assumed he was another desperate stranger looking for money or employment. Without asking his name or purpose, she ordered security to keep him outside. The words were colder than anyone expected. Employees nearby lowered their eyes in embarrassment, while others quietly watched, wondering how the man would react. Ethan simply nodded. He did not argue. He did not shout. He did not beg. Instead, he carefully placed his folder on the reception desk, thanked the receptionist for her time, smiled gently, and walked toward the exit with quiet dignity. That simple act confused everyone. Most people expected anger. Instead, they witnessed grace. Outside the building, Ethan paused long enough to mail copies of his report to 3 government safety agencies, several factory owners, and 2 engineering organizations. He included every calculation, every photograph, and every recommended solution without asking for credit or payment. If Summit would not listen, perhaps someone else would. Then he returned home. The following week, the unexpected happened. One of the agencies immediately investigated the reports and confirmed Ethan's findings. Inspectors discovered that the design flaw truly existed, and that his inexpensive modification could prevent serious injuries. News spread rapidly across the manufacturing industry. Newspapers praised the unknown mechanic, whose careful observations had protected hundreds of workers before tragedy struck. Television reporters searched for the mysterious father, who had asked for nothing in return. Meanwhile, Summit Enterprises found itself facing intense public scrutiny. The board demanded answers. Investors questioned leadership. Most painful of all, Victoria discovered through security footage that Ethan had never caused trouble. He had waited patiently, spoken respectfully, and left peacefully after being rejected. Watching the recording again and again, she noticed something she had completely missed that morning. His folder. Security had later recovered a duplicate copy left behind at reception. Inside were months of research, engineering diagrams, cost analyses, maintenance records, and detailed recommendations that rivaled the work of highly paid consultants. Every page reflected intelligence, honesty, and genuine concern for human life. Victoria felt something she had not experienced in years: shame. She had judged a man within seconds because of his appearance. She had failed as a leader, determined to make things right. She searched for Ethan. When she finally arrived at his modest home, she expected resentment. Instead, she found a father sitting on the front porch helping Lily build a small birdhouse from leftover pieces of wood. They laughed together as sawdust floated through the afternoon sunlight. There was no luxury, no expensive furniture, only warmth, only love, only a family doing its best with what little they had. Victoria introduced herself, expecting the door to close in her face. Instead, Ethan welcomed her inside with the same kindness she had never shown him. As she looked around, she noticed framed drawings made by Lily covering the walls. Every picture showed her father smiling. Every drawing carried simple handwritten words: "My hero." For the first time in years, business reports and profit margins seemed completely meaningless compared to the quiet strength living inside that tiny home. Victoria apologized sincerely, admitting she had judged him unfairly and allowed stress to blind her compassion. She confessed that the moment replayed in her mind every night since discovering the truth. Ethan accepted the apology without hesitation. Holding on to bitterness would never change the past. Choosing forgiveness could change the future. That answer affected Victoria more deeply than any criticism ever could. Within weeks, Summit Enterprises hired Ethan as an independent safety advisor. He accepted only after insisting that every recommendation prioritize workers over profits. His ideas transformed manufacturing standards throughout the company. Workplace injuries declined dramatically, employee trust increased, and even investors recognized that ethical leadership created stronger businesses. But Ethan requested something even more unusual. Rather than a luxury office, he asked the company to establish scholarships for children who had lost a parent, believing education could become the bridge toward brighter futures. Victoria agreed immediately. Together, they launched the Carter Foundation, providing financial assistance, mentoring, and emotional support to families facing unimaginable loss. Years later, hundreds of students proudly graduated because one father refused to answer cruelty with hatred. Victoria often spoke publicly about the lesson that forever changed her leadership. She admitted that resumes never reveal character. Expensive clothes never measure wisdom. Titles never define greatness. Sometimes the most extraordinary people arrive wearing dusty boots and carrying quiet hearts. The employees who had witnessed that unforgettable morning never forgot it either. New training programs reminded every staff member that respect must never depend upon appearance, wealth, or social status. Visitors were welcomed with dignity because everyone carried a story invisible to the eye. Lily eventually grew into a confident young engineer inspired by her father's compassion rather than his achievements. Whenever people praised Ethan for changing an industry, he smiled and pointed toward his daughter, saying the greatest success of his life had never been a career but raising a kind human being. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes kindness can change lives. Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Kindness so we can continue bringing stories that inspire hope. Special request: before this story ends, tell us in the comments, have you ever been judged by your appearance, and how did you respond? Your story may encourage someone else who needs hope today. As the years passed, people forgot the headlines, the investigations, and the corporate meetings. What remained was a far more powerful memory. One ordinary father, wearing worn-out clothes and carrying nothing but integrity, proved that true greatness is never found in wealth, titles, or appearance. It is found in the courage to stay humble when misunderstood, to forgive when hurt, and to choose kindness, even when the world offers none. And in the end, the man who was once told, "You can't enter," didn't just enter the company. He entered the hearts of everyone who learned that compassion will always open doors that pride can never unlock.